If you want to know what to feed Muscovy ducks, today I'm going to show you exactly what I feed my Muscovy ducks in my backyard. Hi guys, I'm Elisa at Moat, Cottage, Homesteading, the small space homesteading channel. My backyard Muscovy ducks are free range, so they're free to roam around the poultry coop through to the garden. This means they can eat grass, leaves, some plants, and they forage for worms, bugs, flies, snails, slugs, spiders, and the occasional frog. Small lizards and snakes and mice would also be fair game. Greens are a huge part of the Muscovy duck diet. Over the years of having free-range ducks, my supply of grass has diminished considerably. So I grow greens in the vegetable garden for both my family and my birds. I put the greens in a pool of water to keep them fresh and clean while they're being eaten. This is especially important in the super hot weather. Fresh crunchy leaves are way more popular than wilted leaves. I keep my poultry food in these containers in the poultry coop. This keeps them protected from moisture, rain, sunlight, and also from pests from getting in as well. And what I've got in them is the mixed grain, which is the grain you can ferment, or you can give it to them dry, and I give that to my ducks and chickens when they're over 8 weeks of age. This is Peter's free-range poultry mix, that's what I use. It contains crushed peas, lupins, wheat, sorghum, crushed maize, loosened chaff, black sunflower seeds, crushed maize, and it has salt, chloride, and added vitamins and minerals. I don't give that to ducklings or chicks. The ducklings, when they're babies, till 8 weeks of age, get the duckling starter. And their mum can have that as well because she's not laying eggs at that time. You don't want to give the starter mixes to adult birds that are laying because you don't want to be eating the eggs that they're laying if they're eating this, because it does have medication in it. The chick starter is for little chicks, and I don't give that to the ducklings because there's too much medication in the chick starter and the ducks will get sick if they eat the chick starter. So chick starter is one you just keep away from everyone except the mum chicken and the little chicks. And then up the end is the layers, which is for the laying hens and ducks, for them to have a bit of extra nutrients and protein so that they can lay lots of good eggs. Layer pellets and starter mixes all need to be kept dry, and only the mixed grains are suitable for fermenting. In the cooler months, I keep my fermented grain buckets in the glass house to keep them warmer while the grains ferment. If you want to learn about fermenting grain, that was the first video I ever made for this channel, and I'll leave the link in the description below. I use straw bales around the whole garden for a deep litter system, which is a great breeding ground for worms, so there's always a good supply for the birds to forage. I have a video on that, and I'll leave that link in the description below too. The snails come out when it's raining at night here, so I go out and I collect them all and give them to the ducks the next day. They're very popular. In this corner of the poultry coop I have coals, which is basically just burnt wood from the fire pit that I've hosed down and cooled down, and it still has coals on it. The birds can come over here whenever they feel like they have an upset tummy and they can nibble on the coal. It's not very often, but they occasionally use it, so it's nice for them to have access to it. I also have shell grit for them to help digest their food if they want it to. They all know it's here. It's not food, but it does help them break down the food when they need it, so I like to have this available as well. In the warmer months when the flies are about, I have the maggot buckets set up. I put meat in the buckets, like roadkill or some game is suitable, but I never put bird meat in it because in my mind, that's something that could spread diseases. The bucket has holes in it for the flies to get in. They lay their eggs or the larvae on the meat, and in a few days, big fat maggots fall out of the bottom when I lift it up. And this is a popular snack for all the poultry, and it makes great use of flies. Watermelon and other fruit is also a snack that I like to feed the ducks occasionally, but this is more of a treat. And of course, plenty of fresh water for the birds to drink and bathe in. I have one pool for every 4 adult birds, as well as one 20-litre tub per 4 birds as well, so that they can drink that water and they're not swimming in it, although you occasionally do get a duck swimming in it because there's always one that wants to swim in the drinking water. They're all over the yard and water ends up watering the garden, so it's not wasted. When a bird looks off colour or slightly unwell, I add organic apple cider vinegar to all the water sources for a few days, about 1 teaspoon per litre. Don't give apple cider vinegar to your birds if you have birds on antibiotics though, because this can make them inactive due to the acidic environment. I don't use antibiotics, so it's not really an issue for me. I also use food-grade diatomaceous earth to treat internal parasites when needed, which isn't very often. I mix it up with oats and water and feed it to the birds when they're hungry. Muscovies are more wary of unusual food sources, so this may need to be offered a few times to ensure all birds are treated. My adult ducks eat just under half a litre of container feed per day, and growing teenager ducks eat even more. But this is variable to the season and what food is available to forage in the garden. I feed my birds twice a day, so this amount gets broken up. They get fed first thing in the morning and of an evening before they go to bed. If I'm feeding dry grain and I mix that with the dry layer pellets, if I'm feeding fermented grain, obviously that needs to be in a separate bowl because it's wet. And you don't want to mix that with the layer pellets because they'll go all soggy and smelly and yucky. And the birds don't really like it when that gets mushy. I keep an eye on my birds when they're eating. It's a good time to be able to study them and see what they're up to and their behaviours and check on them and see if they're all well. When the birds wander off because they've had enough to eat, I'll cover the containers over so that the wild birds don't come in and finish off the food. That way the food is not being wasted. Luckily for the frogs, they only come out at night, and so they're usually pretty safe from the ducks. So now you can get an idea of what you can feed your Muscovy ducks in your backyard. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.